Is stress ruining your weight loss progress? By the end of this video, you're going to have 6 different strategies to use to allow you to naturally boost your metabolism as well as make better choices by reducing stress. And before diving into it today, if you are looking for more ways to simplify the process of losing weight, building muscle, getting fit, make sure you tap that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to be notified when we release new videos. With that being said, let's get into it. Hey, my name is Sky. I'm a lifestyle fat loss coach and founder of SkyFit, where we help people optimize their biology and their psychology to lose weight permanently. And the strategies that you're going to learn today have helped clients of mine drop weight while also reducing stress in the process. Like my client Amy. Amy is a perfect example. When she started our program, she believed that she was a lost cause. Every day she would wake up, she would make the commitment to eat healthy, and by the time she went to bed, she would have gone off rails because of just stress, eating, and not being able to control herself. Now, currently, she's only in week 3 of the program. She's lost a couple pounds, but more importantly, she stopped the snacking and she's more in control of herself. Now, if you're curious what the correlation is between stress and fat loss, we released a video last week on that. You can find the link to that video in the description, and I would absolutely recommend watching that first. But with that being said, if you understand how stress can impact your weight loss and you're looking for strategies to reduce stress, look no further. Let's dive into it. So first, I think it's necessary to show how stress is created, because whenever we have a certain emotion or feeling, there tends to be 3 specific steps. Step 1 is usually some sort of event. Now, this could be anything. This could be you're driving home from work and you're in traffic. This could be you get in an accident. This could be someone brings in donuts. This could be literally anything. It could be good. It can be bad. But usually that event is going to create what's next, which is the interpretation of the event. Now, depending on who you are, that interpretation can be very different. If you're in traffic and someone cuts you off, your interpretation could be that they're a jerk and that they were trying to get back at you for something. Or your interpretation could be something completely different, is that maybe they just had to go to the bathroom really bad and they're trying to get home quickly. So you have the event, you have the interpretation of the event, and then finally you have the feeling, which in this case would be the stress. Now, it's worth noting that many of these things are changeable, which is what we're about to talk about today. And so the first thing we'll take a look at is the event. Now, plain and simple, my number 1 strategy for reducing stress is changing the environment you're in. There's a certain event that consistently creates stress in your life. You do have the ability to change it. My go-to for changing your environment when it comes to stress is turning off the news, stopping spending time with negative people or drastically reducing it, and then reducing other potential negative inputs. So for example, unfollowing negative people on social media. Now, some of these things are very doable and I really recommend you do make those changes. Some of them are a little bit difficult, right? If you have a stressful job, it's probably not the best idea to immediately just quit your job. We usually do have some form of stress in our lives that we have to learn to manage. And so that's why the next 3 strategies are more about the interpretation of things. You know, we have the event, maybe we can't change it, maybe we don't want to. So how do we change the interpretation? So strategy number 2 here is as simple as gratitude. Now, it sounds cheesy, it sounds cliche, you may have heard the word 1,000 times and it's lost its meaning, but gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to retrain the brain to interpret in a better way. And so when we think of this, we have a million different stimuli coming at us every single second of every single day. We have different colors, shapes, things, and our brain has to do its best to interpret. And so what the brain does is it uses a part of it called the reticular activating system to filter out what it believes is not important and to only include what it believes is important. A good example of this is if you're driving on the road and maybe you just bought a new car, you're going to start to see that car everywhere. And it's not that the car just appeared out of nowhere, it's that your brain is now filtering to pick that up and help you notice it more often. And so if you tend to get stressed very quickly or you tend to have stressful events and interpret them as stressful, most likely your brain is filtering out the good side of those things and focusing more on the things that can create that stress. So the perfect example I mentioned before is if you're stuck in traffic and someone cuts you off. Your brain may immediately filter out and interpret that they are being jerks, that they cut you off purposefully. But if you train your brain to be grateful, maybe you interpret that as, hey, maybe they cut me off, and if they didn't, I may have gotten into an accident. Maybe they just really have to go to the bathroom, but you may interpret it different more naturally because of a practice of gratitude. Now, gratitude is one of those things that you can't just do once and then give up on. It is something that has to become more of a daily practice. One of the easiest ways to get started is to just start to write down 3 things you're grateful for every morning. It can be very simple. It can be your family, having a home, having a car, whatever it may be. But the more you do it and the more you really feel those feelings of gratitude, the more you're going to train your brain to actually focus on those things naturally. Strategy number 2 to change the interpretation is meditation. Now, meditation is one of those things that, depending where you come from, depending on your background, you may have a certain idea about. Maybe you think it's just sitting cross-legged with your fingers touching and saying Om. But really all meditation is training the brain to stay a little bit more focused and calm. When you meditate, you strengthen the decision-making part of your brain, and you also allow more of a space between an event and your interpretation. So whereas sometimes you may be activated by certain things, you may have the instant reaction of stress, the more you practice meditation, the more space you can create between that event and then your reaction to the event. So meditation, just like gratitude, could be its own video that I could go super in depth on. If you're looking to get started, the app Headspace is one that I'd really recommend. They teach you how to meditate, they walk you through it, but I have noticed incredible benefits in my life when it comes to meditation. I did a challenge this year where I meditated for an hour every single day for 7 days, which the link to that video will be in the description. But in general, meditation is one of those things that has been super impactful on my life, and if you are not including it in your routine right now, I recommend you do. Even if it's only 3 to 5 minutes a day, long term it will absolutely pay off for you. And then the fourth strategy around reducing that stress in more of the interpretation is understanding the negativity bias. So we as humans tend to have a bias towards things that are negative. Our brain has done it in a way to keep us alive, right? Because back in the day, we had to focus on the things that could go wrong, because if we didn't and something happened, it could be the death of us. And so what the negativity bias says is a negative stimulus, which could be pain, conflict, criticism, anything like that, will elicit a much stronger reaction and memory formation than a positive stimulus, such as comfort, reassurance, a compliment, of equal intensity. And this is pretty obvious, right? If you hear someone compliment you over and over and over, and then one person seems to be a little nitpicky and criticize you, that one person's criticism tends to be more impactful and more heavy than the hundreds of compliments you've gotten in the past. Same thing if you've had a really beneficial, powerful, loving relationship for years, and then you get in a few fights, those few fights can erase the years of positivity and actually ruin a relationship. And so I bring this up because when you're looking to interpret certain events, just understanding your negativity bias can help you kind of reflect on all the ways that maybe this shouldn't stress you out as much as it potentially is. And so the quickest thing you could do is when an event happens and you have that space where you're allowed to interpret it, you can just start to think, am I using my negativity bias right now? Is this as impactful as my nervous system is telling me it is? And when you practice that enough, you can get good enough and skilled enough to the point where you can just make those switches automatically. So that's strategy number 4. Before we get into strategy 5, I would love if you could leave me a comment. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is the average level of stress that you deal with on a daily basis? I love hearing from you. I love when I get comments on these videos, so it would be super appreciated if you left me one below. As we move into strategy number 5, again, we have an event, we have a certain stimulus, followed by the feeling, which is the actual stress in this situation. And so strategy number 5, which is going to be to reduce this feeling, is going to be breath work. Now, there are a million different types of ways to breathe, and I think it's really cool and worth mentioning that when monks go into training, one of the first things they learn is how to use their breath to their advantage. If you're super excited and you're hyperventilating, you're going to be taking these quick, short breaths, and you're going to be very energized, whereas if you've ever done some slow breathing before, taking those slow breaths can instantly reset your nervous system, pull you out of that fight or flight state, and put you into more of a rest and digest state. And so, like I said, there are a million different ways to breathe. The biggest and most important that I would say is some sort of mindful breathing, which is basically becoming aware of your breath and slowing it down and controlling it in some sort of pattern. And so what's good to know is when you inhale, you're typically activating the sympathetic nervous system, which is more of the fight or flight. And when you exhale, you tend to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is more of the rest and digest. So if you're looking to reduce stress, you're looking to pull yourself out of that fight or flight, you want to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which means breathing out and putting an emphasis on that outward breath. Another thing is when you tend to breathe into your chest and your shoulders, that is more sympathetic, fight or flight. When you tend to breathe deeply into your belly, that is more parasympathetic. And so the two simplest exercises I could give you are box breathing, which is breathing in, holding, breathing out, and holding for the same amount of time. So you could do 4 seconds in, 4 second hold, 4 second out, 4 second hold. And then the second style of breathing would be 1, 3, 2, 2 breathing, which is basically picking a number of seconds. I'd recommend starting with anywhere from 2 to 4, and then tripling that number for the hold, and then doubling that number for the exhale, and then doubling that number, so keeping the same for the hold. So for example, if I were to do a 3 second inhale, it would be 3 times 3, which would be a 9 second hold at the top, times 2, which would be a 6 second exhale, and then times 2 again, a 6 second hold at the end. And I hope I'm not butchering that. If you have any questions on that, leave me a comment below. But really, that's all it is. You can be in a completely different space in as little as 30 seconds just from being a little more mindful of your breath, and it's something that a lot of people don't use enough. And then finally, when we look at stress, so we have event, interpretation, and then feeling. My last strategy for improving the actual feeling of stress is just taking care of your health. This is kind of a catch-22 where if your stress is impacting your health probably isn't taking care of your stress, but at some point you can just kind of put your foot down and get things started to get better sleep, not necessarily more sleep, but deeper sleep, eat better, move more, and then just reducing stress in general and doing one of the 5 things we talked about above. Now, when we refer back to the stress cup that I referred to in the previous video, this is something where if you do take more care of your health, the emotional stress that you experience is going to be less impactful than it would if you didn't take care of your health and your body was experiencing physical stress. So just something to think about here. But look, stress is one of those things we cannot avoid, especially in today's day and age. So you might as well develop yourself into the person who can actually handle it. You are looking for our system for managing stress as well as continuously losing fat. Check the description of this video. We got a free training there that lays out everything we do. You can also reach out so we can chat about my program. But besides that, if you're looking for more ways to simplify the process of getting healthy, tap that subscribe button and hit that bell to be notified when we release new videos. And of course, thank you so much for watching. And as always, make sure to eat smart, move more, sleep deep, and be grateful for this moment. I'll see you in the next video.